Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Trinity Stamps. As you can see, we are doing some rainbow scene cards that are also kind of St. Patrick's Day themed, so I apologize that this was not up yesterday. I am using the Real Treasure stamp set, the Spring Gnomes, the Leprechaun Loot, which is like the cauldron, and I feel like, oh, the rainbow and the embossed edges, hills, and dies. I pretty much use those for every card, right? You're so used to seeing them by now. So I'm cutting everything out of white. The only colored cardstock I'm using is a gold, and that is for the little coins as well as the top of the, I keep wanting to call it a cauldron. Is that what it is? The little pot anyway that the leprechaun is holding. Here what you see me doing is I cut my rainbow out of both white cardstock and masking paper. And then here I just have a regular A2 piece of cardstock, and I am going to cut my two hills as well as my two clouds. So basically our scenes are going to be pretty similar. One of them is going to have the actual like rainbow on it, and the other one is going to be masked. I'm going to show you how to do it both ways. And then we have two different kinds of leprechauns here, but the like everything else is pretty similar, and I think it's a good one. Because who doesn't love a little rainbow scene, right? We could put other cute little critters in here. So here I am using my blending buddies and some salty ocean to just create kind of like a really soft blue sky. And then I like to keep my rainbow like kind of seated in my die. This helps me to not get my stripes mixed up so that each one will fit nicely next to each other. So this is the one that I am going to be masking. And the idea here is to have the rainbow kind of brighter at the top and kind of fade off at the bottom. The other thing with this is you do want to save those two negative pieces on either side, especially for the ink blending, because we will need to keep those in place to do the stripes on either end. Now, you're saying to yourself, Kelly, this is a die. I could just cut this once and glue them down, and why would I ever want to do this technique? Excellent, excellent question. If you're mailing a card and you didn't want to create a lot of bulk, you maybe would do it this way. Or if you were doing a one layer scene, you could still use this die using this technique. So just a different way to do it. It might not be for you. That's totally okay. I get it. But just something different to share with you guys. I did speed this up just a little bit because the process is a little bit, it takes a little bit longer, and there's like a lot, it's the same repetitive movement, so I didn't leave it all in. So basically I am using my first color. I chose pink instead of red. And I am, like I said, for the actual masking, I'm being heavier handed at the top and then letting it kind of fade off toward the bottom. Now, one of the tricks with this is, especially if you're using distress ink, because they do stay wet for longer, it can be hard to get your masking paper to stick back down. So what I end up doing is typically I will tape it to the one next to it. And then once I have that one in place, I can go ahead and remove the next one. For the pieces that I'm actually gluing down, the white cardstock pieces, I just went ahead and colored them all the same intensity of color all the way down, because I wasn't worried about, like, I wasn't trying to create a look. With the masking, like the one where we're, moving each layer and then proceeding to the next, that one, I wanted it to fade off in case I was going to be showing my whole sky in a scene. Then you would be able to like just kind of see it fade off into the sky, and you wouldn't need to hide it behind anything. But I like the way that both of them turned out. I like knowing how to do both of them. So even if I don't necessarily use the one with the masking as often, I think that having more techniques in our arsenal is always going to help us to be better creators. So with that said, I do want to mention, because today is the last day for it, Trinity did have is having a sale that is 17% off, because St. Patrick's Day was on the 17th. And the code for that is Lucky You 2025. And this will give you 17% off all Trinity brand products. And like I said, it's only, through just tonight. But it will also give you 40% off anything in the last chance category, which are, things that maybe, you love that are being phased out. So you guys know, when it comes to kind of loose embellishments, Trinity is my favorite. So they have these types of sales is when I like to go in and stock up on those embellishments. So that way, for my shaker cards or things like that, I have lots of different ones. And, those are in the last chance section too. And I'm not opposed to picking up those either at a 40% off rate. So, once we're done with this inking and we kind of have our rainbows all set up, I know with the masking it looks hideous right now. I know it does, because it's all those colors layered on top of each other. Just hang tight. Once we remove everything, the rainbow will be really pretty, I promise. I did notice there is a little bit of gapping on just one or two of them. That doesn't bother me, but if it bothers you, you could go in with a marker or something and fix that. But you can see how it fades off at the bottom. And then, you could put your little clouds. I'm going to fill in the either side with that salty ocean, just to fill in my blue sky. And then I'm going to set those aside to work on the bottom piece of the scene. I used the same salty ocean. I did not re-ink it. I just used what was left of my blending buddy to add just a little bit of shading to the bottom of the clouds. I would also do this with like purple would be fine too, to add a little bit of shading. And then for the hills, I'm just using that mowed lawn. I will add extra character to them, extra texture to them with my markers later. So for the leprechaun loot, the little pot, it's not little, it's a big pot. It's a big pot of loot. I am going in, and there's kind of embossed areas that are already in, like, that you can see. And so I am adding shading to those, but then I am also adding kind of some little extra half C shapes in there. And then here you'll see later on, we'll be putting all these little gold coins in. I wasn't happy with how it was blending with my 3 colors, so I did go back in and blend a little better. In the beginning here, I just need you guys to bear with me, because I had everything laid out on my desk. If you follow my videos, I like to kind of group like things together when it comes to my die cuts, so I know all of what I'm coloring. And the beards were a little bit further down on my desk than usual. So once I realized that a lot of the coloring I was struggling to get it on the camera, I will adjust this and move them up. But basically, for each one of the cauldrons, I am adding shading underneath the lip of it to give it some dimension. And then I'm adding shading to the left and the right. For this bigger one that has the handles and the feet, I'm adding the shading kind of where it's closest to the body of the cauldron. So for the feet, it's kind of like down along the bottom where it would be connecting to the ground. And for the handles, I'm adding it to each side, allowing the roundest part to be the lightest color. And then the same thing with the feet, the part where the foot kind of flips up, that is where I'm leaving my highlight. Now I'm going to be real with y'all here. My C7 was running out. I was trying to make it work by blending in with my C5, and it didn't work perfectly. But fortunately for me, that's where my sentiment is going to go, so I'm not overly worried about it. For each one of my leprechauns, I did put the little buckle on their hat, and I gave them both black shoes. So the only thing that's different about my leprechauns coloring is actually their beards and mustaches. So I wanted to, show that difference. Here I'm showing how I mark for where the face is going to be. So I put the top layer of the beard onto the base layer and then mark it with my lightest color of skin tone. And then for this one, I went with a more traditional coloring for a gnome, which would be white, like a white beard and a white mustache. Um, but again, like just because they're gnomes, don't feel like you can't color them whatever color you want. There's three different um there's probably more than three, honestly. There's the bunny ears, then the spring gnomes, because we're almost in spring, guys. Can you believe it? The weather feels like it. It's 67 here today. I'm thrilled. But they can hold a little heart, they can hold a little gold pot, they can hold a flower. I'll show you that one, I think, toward the end. Um and then they can hold some eggs. There's bunny ears to make them a little Easter bunny. I think that would be totally adorable. And maybe once we get close to Easter, because this year Easter's a month away. It's at the end of April this year. But anyway, in coloring the beard gray or white, you just are adding the shadows. So here I'm kind of trying to figure where my hat is going to go, and then so I can mark that to make sure I'm adding shading there. Honestly, go like now having done it, I don't even think that part was necessary because the hat comes down so far, it sits right on the nose. You can't even really see any of that. So I don't think that part's necessary. And the same thing with like the darker portion that's up to the line of the beard, the mustache sits there. So I don't think maybe it's as necessary to mark it. But I did one that was white, and then this one, I wanted to do more of like a redhead, like a gingery color. And so, because, that's what I think of when I think of leprechauns. I probably because of Lucky Charms cereal. I don't know why. But so for that, I chose the E30s family, which is very, very warm. And I'm using a 39, a 37, a 35, and a 33. Now, all color families don't always work out that nicely, but these ones do. And then you can see I'm adding like the shading with the shape of the beard. So like where the beard bends in, I'm adding some darkness and stretching that in. Same thing with the mustache, taking the darkest color and adding those little shadings, little maybe triangles of color towards that to really accentuate the fullness of the beard. And then from there, I can go in and start adding other shading lines. There isn't a right or a wrong way to do this. I usually start out with just like some C shapes. I try to pay attention to like the curve of the line of whatever it is that I'm coloring. And then with the lightest color, I will just fill in any of that white area. Now, you may notice when I do that, it kind of knocks back a lot of the darker color that we've added in. If that happens to you, just go back in with your other, like with your darker colors and just put in another layer. And you'll see that they all do kind of blend together and give you like multiple tones that help the beard look more realistic. And this is obviously a beard that this little leprechaun is like conditioning and blow drying because it's a beautiful smooth beard. So here I did his band gold, just like we colored the gold in the large pot with those same colors. And then for his hat and his gloves, I am going to do green. It is going to be more of a yellow green. You could do whatever color green that you would like. I do prefer more of a yellow green. So while I started with my base being more of a true green with that G29, my lightest color is still a YG03. And that's what I'm using here to mark the shadow for where the hat is like the brim of the hat is seated. And then where it's kind of waving in, I am going to add, again, a couple of those little triangles, and this is going to help give it a little bit more movement. And then from there, I'm just going to, come in with my midtones, go right over top of those darker colors and kind of spread them out a little. For the gloves, the same thing. I'm going over it and just extending it out just a little bit. I am trying to be careful to make sure that I am leaving a light edge along the brim of the hat and along the edge of the gloves. So that way, that's where like the light is kind of catching it. And then the same thing with the hat, like where the creases would be, on top. So it looks like it's kind of squishing down on itself. Like the hat isn't super full. But anyway, so I did tell you about the sale, which is great. Embellishments. I need to get over there and get them. And this weather, so nice. So when I pick up Jelly Bean, because now with my husband's new schedule, I'm the Jelly Bean picker upper most days. And there's a playground like right across from her daycare. And so the last couple of times that it's been really nice and I've picked her up, she's been like, "Can you take me to the playground? Can you take me?" And I'm like, "Girl, no, because we have to eat dinner." We have to eat dinner. So I'm thinking one of these days I'm gonna have to make sure that I allot time to take her over there so that she can play. Tomorrow's not going to be that day though, because tomorrow we have our second band concert. Let me talk here. So they're with the larger pot of gold. There is this die that cuts out 3 shamrocks. And so I cut it out twice, and I am going to use these to kind of make my grass a little bit more bougie, to add some, shamrocks in there, into my little grasses and really kind of play up that, St. Patrick's Day feel. I'm a little bit Irish, a little. I'm probably the most Irish looking of all of my sisters though, because I'm the only one that has freckles, and like light eyes, fair skinned, and freckles, especially if I'm in the sun. So I've never really done anything with St. Patrick's Day. Like we never really did anything with it. So there's that. I know a lot of people, I was actually just joking with a friend of mine, Lisa, and her daughter was going on a trip, for spring break. And I was like, "Do you remember when we were young enough to do that?" And she was like, "Girl, yes." And I was like, "And now, like, you couldn't drag me. You could not drag me kicking and screaming." Oh, to be young again. So anyway, here is where I'm going to start kind of building everything together, and I'll show you the options. There's one of the sentiments, which is what I originally intended on using. It says, "Your friendship is worth more than a pot of gold," or "You are the real treasure at the end of the rainbow. Wishing you a pot of gold and all the joy your heart can hold." So I wanted to do one of these. There's a lot. It's really cute. And so since those really play to friendship, I thought the heart would be nice. For the one with the little leprechaun who already has an enormous pot of gold. I thought that would be super cute. There you could see I glued on my little gold coins. I think they work really nicely together. I did glue some of the gold coins onto this section, even though they're also cut out of gold, just because you can definitely see kind of like the layered look there. For putting, I'm going to be honest, you guys know I'm totally transparent. Putting together this gnome, it was a learning curve. So I put my beard on, I put my mustache on, I put my nose on, and then I realized that the mustache is supposed to be in front of the hat. So now I'm like trying to slide the hat back behind the mustache. And so I glue it down, I shimmy it back behind the mustache, and then I realized, well, I still have to put on the brim And then when I put on the brim, I was like, oh, this buckle is supposed to be hidden behind the brim. It's not supposed to overhang the brim. So anyway, don't do as I did. Don't do that. Basically, you want to build out the hat first. Like, put down like the hat with the band and then the buckle and then the brim before you bring it over and glue it to your base of like the face space. Oh, that's rough to say. Anyway, the one you colored to look like his face. Then you can add in your beard, your mustache, and your nose. It would just be easier that way. So just wanted to share that because I did struggle a little bit with getting it together. And I dropped it after I put the glue on it right onto his little beard. But nonetheless, it did end up working out. And look at how cute he is. He's very, very adorable. And then we're going to add his little feet, and that will complete the leprechaun look. And then we'll be able to kind of play around with the different things that he can hold. And so like, here's the little heart, which is what we ended up going with. And just gonna, show you that layout. And then also, the flower pot, because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to do. So the flower pot is colored with that same color combination that we did the other leprechaun hair in. And then it has some greenery, and you would just put your little flowers on that, which is also very, very cute, very spring. This part is not, you don't have to be as worried about it, like sitting correctly, because you're just going to put it anywhere that you would like on the beard, and then make sure that there's, his little hand or her little hand, depending on how you colored them, is holding that. What were we talking about? Oh, the band concert. So yeah, we're having our second band concert, and I don't know if you guys remember when when we did the original one and we ran into issues with his t-shirt because he's supposed to wear either his band shirt, which is a little bit too big for him, or he's supposed to wear like a shirt with his school colors, and he was like, I don't have a shirt with my school colors. And I was like, I have bought how many shirts over the years with your school colors? Most assuredly you do. And let me tell you, most assuredly he did not. He had outgrown all of them. So he ended up wearing one of mine, which was fine because they're all like unisex t-shirts. But then I was like, I need to make sure that I get him his own t-shirts that fit him correctly. And I still have not done that. And our next concert is tomorrow. So tonight we will be going to buy a t-shirt that fits this child. For the sentiments, I did stamp in gold pigment ink and then heat set them with gold embossing powder. And then we're going to go in and we're going to build them. So this is the one where we did the stenciling. I am going to put my clouds down and then my hill. Like this, I think, even without, take out the hill. Like look at it real quick, just a quick peep. Like I think that would be adorable, for certain like types of critters or a different kind of spring scene. I think it would be really cute. These spring gnomes are large, and truthfully I didn't realize how large until I was already putting them together. So here I'm going to add a little bit of shadow underneath his feet, and then I'm going to do some grasses. This is just, a series of flicking, try to vary your lengths. And then with the next color, the mid-tone, I'm going to do the same thing. And then finally the lightest color, once again, blending out that little bit of shadow and going over all of the grasses. I know that color is very difficult to see, but because alcohol inks are transparent, one color will lift another, which makes more varieties of colors. So then here I did the sentiment. I did end up cutting it apart. So I cut apart the wishing you a, and then did the pot of gold. The second one I put together the same way, adding the gold shimmer to the hat bands and to the gold lute, clear shimmer to the rest of the little leprechauns and the rainbow, because you know I love all of the glittery things. And then I also brought in some Stardust stickles. They kind of take on the color of whatever you put them on. So it is my favorite one. And obviously this is super sped up so that I can fit it all in. But I just added some glitter kind of like where the colors met on each one of the lines. And then I also added it as like a little border to the heart. I used the Moonstone gems to accent both of the cards. These are definitely on my list of more to pick up. These are some of my favorite ones. And then that pretty much finished the card. I think just the added rhinestones. So these are both cards. I hope it inspires you to make some rainbow scenes, not just for St. Patrick's Day, but for all kinds of critters. I always appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.